This instructional video for how to write a resume is brought to you by Red Rocks Community College and a grant from the U.S. Department of Labor's Employment and Training Administration. Colorado Helps Advanced Manufacturing Programs, known as CHAMP. Hello, my name is Celia. In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to write a resume. Let's start with looking at what's included in a resume. A resume is a written compilation of your skills, education, work experience, credentials, and accomplishments that you want the employer to know about you. It is also good to include a summary of your qualifications. Let's start with some resume tips. We'll begin with the length of a resume. The truth is, there are no standard rules that should be applied to the length of a resume. 1 to 2 pages are recommended. Resumes for new grads and entry-level job seekers are often, but not always, 1 page. Consider a 2-page resume if you have 10 or more years of experience related to your goal or relevant work experience that cannot be explained on 1 page. Let's look at what fonts are recommended for your resume. Universal fonts are the ones that open the same on PCs and Macs of all ages, such as Times New Roman, Arial, Century, Century Gothic, Georgia, and Calibri. Let's take a look at the tips for formatting your resume. Make sure your formatting is consistent. Align all bullets and lines of text. Always proofread your resume. Check spelling and punctuation. Verify that capitalization is used correctly. And check for accuracy, particularly employer names and employment dates. The last tip is to customize your resume. You want to start with a solid, well-written, accomplishments-driven resume. Look over the job announcement and highlight the key skills they are looking for. Highlight your skills that are directly related to the job posting in the summary and key skills section of your resume. In your employment history section, show how your job duties and achievements match the requirements and job description of the job you are seeking. The end result of this process should be a resume that illustrates your accomplishments in terms that the employer understands, showing how your achievements and qualifications match directly to the requirements and job description of the job you are seeking. There are certain sections on every resume. Let's take a look at some sample resumes and note the different sections. In the first resume, we notice the contact information, a qualifications summary, details about their education, and a section listing technical skills and certifications. This is considered professional development. The last section is their employment history or their work experience. In the second resume, we also notice the contact information, a qualifications summary, their education details, a list of computer skills for professional development, and their work experience. In the third resume, we notice the contact information at the top, a qualifications summary, their education, and their work experience. The work experience continues on page 2 of the resume. On page 2, below the work experience, is also a section detailing their volunteer experience. Now let's look at what's needed inside each section. Let's take a look at what to include in the contact info. This will be at the very top of your resume. You need to include your name, your city and state for your address, your best phone number, and an email address. Use an email address that is professional, not an email address that uses inappropriate nicknames or words. If you have a LinkedIn profile, you can also include the address to your LinkedIn profile. Let's look at some examples of how to format the contact info. Let's take a look at the qualifications summary or the resume summary. A summary of qualifications spotlights your most impressive and relevant accomplishments, skills, and experience. It is a summary of your experience and qualifications that is customized for the position in which you are applying. Your resume summary can go by any of several names, such as Summary of Qualifications, Highlights, Professional Summary, or Profile. Let's look at some examples of qualifications summary. Here's an example for an entry-level mechanical designer. Here's an example for an experienced mechanical designer. And finally, here's an example of a qualifications summary for a CAD technician. Let's discuss what's included in the education section of your resume. This section can be at the end of your resume, or if a specific degree is required, you may want to put this section toward the top. Include the type of degree or certificate you received or will be receiving, along with your major. List the name of the college where you received your degree and the city and state in which that college is located. List the dates you attended. You only need to list the years. Optionally, you can list your GPA and any honors you received. If you are a recent graduate or will be graduating soon, you may also want to list the highlights of your coursework, especially the courses relevant to the position you are seeking. Let's take a look at some examples of the education section within a resume. The next section is work experience or your employment history. This section typically includes the following in chronological order, starting with your most recent position. Include the name of the companies you worked for, city and state for each company, titles or positions you held, your employment dates for each job, and your responsibilities and accomplishments at that company. Here are some tips for listing your responsibilities and accomplishments for each job. Be accurate and specific about the duties you performed. Highlight the duties that are most relevant to the position you are seeking. It is okay to list jobs that are not specific to the job you are applying to. Focus on transferable skills, such as customer service, time management, conflict resolution, etc. In accomplishment statements, identify the situation that existed or the task you were completing. Describe the action taken. Describe the results of your action, which could be a skill demonstrated or an outcome of your action. An example of this is: initiated advanced assembly procedures to increase production 15% by reducing turnaround time from 6 to 5 days. Let's glance at some examples. Also pay attention to the layout and format of these samples. The next section is the professional development section. Professional development is education a job seeker has pursued while working that helps them to continue to develop professionally. This education can involve on-site or online courses, workshops, conferences, seminars, or self-learning materials. You can list your professional development with your education section or in a separate section at the end of the resume. Here are some examples of professional development. The last section you may want to consider is community involvement or volunteer experience. This can be a separate section or it can be integrated with your work experience. Volunteer work should be presented with the same value, importance, and level of achievement as paid work. Include volunteer position title, a description of duties and responsibilities, skills required, dates of service, number of hours contributed, and training received. Also include evaluation of performance and contribution to the organization, in-service training, workshops, and conferences attended. Explain the outcome of your work with some data. For example, amount of money raised, or number of people helped, or a percentage of successful interventions. This wraps up the different sections of the resume. Don't forget to tailor your resume based on your experiences and education to best fit the position in which you are applying. This concludes this training module on how to write a resume. Thanks for watching.